Hello and happy Monday. So in today's video, we are doing a thrift to treasure. I went into my inventory, I grabbed some items that have been in there for a bit, and we are completely transforming them in today's video. If you guys are new here, my name is Sonnet. I'm the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and I want to welcome you guys all to my channel. So stick around, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. For project one, when I was out thrifting, I grabbed this coffee cup holder and it has really good bones. It's very sturdy. I liked how it had 6 spots for the coffee cups, but I felt like it was a little too dark. So we're using crinoline from DIY Paint. And what we're going to do here is I am going to apply 2 even coats of crinoline to this, and then we're going to wet distress it. So anytime I'm creating a vignette in my booth, I grab a couple items and I try to transform them so that when I'm either updating a vignette or creating a new vignette, all those pieces will slide right in. And I felt like my booth needed a bit of lighter colors. I always am adding very bright, vibrant colors, and so I thought some neutrals would be perfect in today's video. Now that the DIY paint is completely dry, I am taking a wet rig and I am just going to randomly distress it all over. That is the beauty of DIY paint, is that it will be reactivated with water until you seal it. So it is perfect for blending or wet distressing like I'm doing here. So I just take an old rig, I get it wet, and it shouldn't be too saturated, but just wet enough, and then I just randomly rub all over the piece in different raised areas until I get the look that I'm going for. The last thing is I'm taking DIY's Big Top, which is a sealer, and I am going to seal the entire project. I just rub 1 even coat over the entire piece, and then that is what seals the DIY paint. You can use any type of top coat to seal DIY. You can also use wax, whether that be clear or a colored wax, and then that will seal it, and that will prevent it from reactivating. For project 2, I was thrifting at the Goodwill bins a while ago. I found this really cool galvanized container, and I didn't have a clue though what it was. I had showed everyone and I received quite a few responses that it was probably an old milk container. They used to set these on people's front porches. At first I didn't know what I wanted to do with it, and then I remembered I had these scrap pieces of paint inlay left over from the last IOD release. With a paint inlay, you can use either a top coat like I'm using Big Top, or you can use paint to put the paint inlay in. The only difference is when you're using a top coat like this, it is just a little bit more time sensitive, and you just really have to watch the paint inlay because you don't want it to dry too hard. So what I'm doing here is applying just 1 even coat of the Big Top. Then I'm going to take the paint inlay, I'm going to mist it to activate the paint on the paint inlay, and I am going to find the center, and then I am going to lay down the paint inlay, rub it all over to really embed that paint inlay into the top coat, and then mist it, and then we're gonna let it dry. What I like to do is I give it a zap with my heat gun to encourage it to dry a little bit quicker. But again, you don't want to dry it too much, and I just keep touching it just to make sure. And then when it's ready, then I remist it and then remove the paint inlay. If you notice, there's just a couple little spots that the paint inlay did not take. I'm embracing those imperfections. I believe that the paint inlay was not completely dry in those areas, and that's why it kind of peeled some of that paint back. Now let's tackle the top. I'm going to do the exact same process as I did with the bottom, but I'm just going to take a little bit of extra time and really make sure that the entire strip is dry before we remist it and then pull it back. I love how this grain sack stripe looks. Now I'm using coal black from Fusion Mineral Paint, and I am using the JRV stencil. I don't even know what this is called. I've had it forever, but I use it all the time. Now I decided on the top, I'm going to put the round portion of the stencil up there. And the key with stenciling, you guys, is a couple things. You want to have a really good stencil brush, and I highly recommend the JRV stencil brushes. All the products that I'm using in today's video can be found on my website, including the JRV stencil brushes, but I started to carry them once I had the opportunity to try them. I was at Debbie Beard's place for her paint inlay party, and we did a project. She had the JRV stencil brushes out, and I used one, and I was completely obsessed with it. It is such a high quality brush, and it just helps with your stenciling. The other thing is you want to make sure that you offload your stencil brush. If you have it too loaded up with paint, you're gonna get a lot of oozing underneath. So that is the key, and if you look, that is looking pretty darn good. And I have to say it's because of the stencil brush and the offloading. Now on the front of this, I'm going to use the October 1932, and again, I'm just gonna lay it down, hold it, and then again use the same paint, and then offload and start stenciling. The last step is using Big Top, and I want to completely seal the paint inlay. Yes, I did put the paint inlay in a top coat, but I always recommend adding one more coat of sealer just to give it that added protection, and I'm applying just one even coat. The other key tip with applying a top coat to a paint inlay is that it can be reactivated with any type of water, just like the DIY paint. So the tip is load up your paintbrush with the top coat, and with a very light hand, apply the top coat. You don't want to go in with a heavy hand. You will smear it and smudge it. So that is my tip for you when it comes to sealing your paint inlay. For project 3, I thrifted this bowl and it has been sitting in my inventory. I have been trying to figure out if I wanted to put it in my booth as is or if I wanted to do something to it. There is a marking on the bottom and I kept going back and forth on whether or not this was real wood or it kind of felt like a plasticky wood. I don't know how to explain it. So in the end, what I decided to do was I am going to paint it with the DIY paint color crinoline, a really nice warm white. I'm applying 2 even coats of the crinoline to the entire piece. My other thought was I was going to stencil in the center, but I could not get my stencil in the center. So I am going to do a bit of wet distressing and then I am going to seal it. Here it is, all painted. I'm using a damp rag and I am going to just randomly rub here and there over the entire bowl. I just want a little bit of that wood grain to pop out here and there along the rim, inside. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the outside as well. Just randomly rub here and there. With the 2 coats, you do have to just give it a little bit more elbow grease. So rub, 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 and the paint will come right off and it looks really naturally worn in those areas. The next step is I'm taking Big Top and sealing the DIY paint. A question that does come up quite a bit is once you seal the DIY paint, is it food safe? And Debbie Beard always just recommends saying, no, it is not food safe. All her products are all natural and 9 ingredients, but legally we cannot say it is food safe. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. My ultimate goal was to go for a very neutral palette, which I definitely accomplished. I always am decorating with such bright colors, and sometimes you need to add a bit of neutral to really just level everything out. But the galvanized container, it has my heart. I loved the galvanized container even before I transformed it. I kept saying to myself, do I want to do something to this or do I just want to use it as is? And once I started brainstorming today and I saw that stripe that I wanted to add, I knew it was going to be the perfect addition to that piece. And then to top it off, when I peeled it back and the paint inlay was not perfect, it looks so authentic, you guys, like it was always that way. So I might be keeping that one for myself. I know I sometimes say this, but you might be seeing that in my own home decor versus in a booth. So I'm still thinking about it. I know my daughter always says you can't keep everything, and she is absolutely right, but I can use stuff for a bit and then I can add it to my booth later on. So we'll see how long it stays with me, but definitely was a favorite of mine. Now, the rest of the week, tonight I'm going live with Tara over on Facebook and YouTube. Tara's with the Reclaimed Ranch. I interviewed her on my last week podcast, and we are going to be upcycling old vintage windows. So we each are going to grab an old vintage window and we are going to upcycle them on tonight's live. So join me at 6 p.m. for that on both Facebook and YouTube. Wednesday, I normally do go live at 10 o'clock, but you guys, I am headed down by Connie from The Painted Photographer, and we are going on a bit of a thrifting adventure. So I'm picking up the papers that she created for the July box, which is the July Makers box, and I'm picking those up and we're gonna go on a bit of a thrifting adventure. So that video will be available on Monday. So be watching for that for Monday's video. And then Friday, lots going on Friday, you guys. First off, I will be going live at 10 o'clock and I will be doing a live unboxing of the June Makers box. So you guys are gonna see everything that's in the box. I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek for the July box. Yes, you heard me right. It's just a little sneak peek of something that's going to be in the July box. And then as of noon, Kristen from Simply Joy Creations will be going live, and she is going to be doing a project from the Makers box. And at 10 o'clock, there will be a playlist available. So normally my video goes live on Fridays at 5. But because we are celebrating all things the Makers box, I will be putting out a playlist, and all the creatives that I sent a box to ahead of time will have a video on that playlist. So the playlist will be full of inspiration. And keep in mind, even if you didn't receive the Makers box, definitely watch the videos, you guys. There is so much inspiration to be had. You don't necessarily need the papers to create something very similar to what they're doing. But yes, so I'm super excited about that. And then I'll be working on all things July's Makers box next week and the week after to get them out before the 4th of July. So you guys have yourselves a great week, and we are going to see you all on Friday. Bye.